Ukraine didn't disappear because the war slowed down. It disappeared from headlines. While media attention shifted to Trump, Iran, and Venezuela, the real pressure in this conflict quietly intensified. Russia's oil revenues shrank, allies wavered, and its vulnerabilities came into focus. This isn't just a story of a battlefield, it's a long game of power, patience, and endurance. How close is Russia to running out of options? Why is Ukraine still standing? And what does this mean for global balance? Over the past week, Ukraine has slipped down the news agenda, not because the war slowed, but because attention moved elsewhere. Coverage of Venezuela, Iran, Greenland, and U.S. foreign policy dominates. That shift creates a dangerous illusion. If we're not hearing about it, it's not urgent. In Ukraine's case, nothing could be further from the truth. The war continues at scale. People are still dying daily. Infrastructure is still targeted. Strategic decisions are still made. Only the cameras have moved. When Donald Trump speaks about Ukraine, he often implies, or sometimes directly states, that Ukraine or President Zelensky bears responsibility for stalled peace talks. This claim deserves scrutiny. Ukraine has repeatedly signaled a willingness to negotiate, accepted uncomfortable compromises, and engaged in diplomatic processes. Russia, meanwhile, has repeatedly refused meaningful engagement. When talks approach substance, Moscow escalates militarily or imposes conditions that undermine Ukraine's sovereignty. Blaming Zelensky is convenient politically, but it doesn't match the facts. Historical context explains why security guarantees matter. Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons under the Budapest Memorandum in exchange for promises of protection. Those promises failed in 2014 and again in 2022. Ukraine's demand for stronger guarantees is rational, rooted in lived experience, not obstinacy. Consistency matters in diplomacy. Mixed rhetoric, blaming Putin one day and Zelensky the next, weakens deterrence, which is not theoretical here. It affects whether missiles launch or don't. Europe alone cannot contain this conflict. European nations have contributed significantly, but Russia fears unified American power more than Europe's fragmented responses. Fragmentation invites pressure, unity imposes limits. Putin's strategy is visible. He's betting on exhaustion. He expects democratic societies to fracture under economic strain, polarization, and media fatigue before Russia runs out of manpower or tolerance for loss. Authoritarian systems, by contrast, can impose pain without accountability. But this strategy is cracking. Russia suffers staggering casualties. Its economy is constrained. Politically, it is isolated. Its network of allies, client states, energy routes, and financial workarounds is eroding. Syria, once a symbol of Russian power, is gone. Venezuela no longer functions as a partner. Iran faces increasing pressure. North Korea remains a supplier, but it highlights Russia's weakness rather than strength. Losing allies reduces resources and undermines narrative power. Claims of global leadership ring hollow when support crumbles. The U.S. has shown renewed willingness to act decisively in multiple theaters. Neutralizing defenses, removing hostile leaders, and exiting without losses sends a message to adversaries and allies alike. This creates tension for Moscow. Rhetoric may support its narrative, but operational realities expose limits. Ukraine's strategy is evolving. Instead of chasing symbolic victories, it targets systems, energy infrastructure, logistics, and revenue streams. Strikes on oil platforms, refineries, storage facilities, and shadow fleets are deliberate economic warfare. Each hit compounds pressure, slows repairs, and narrows Russia's options. New weapon systems matter less for their names and more for precision, minimizing collateral damage and preserving international support. Internally, Ukraine is responding to corruption and institutional stress. Investigations, removals, and structural adjustments are signs of adaptation, not collapse. Leadership reshuffles in security and intelligence indicate focus and delegation, a healthy response under prolonged conflict. Russia, by contrast, faces a brittle economic model. Oil and gas still generate revenue, but at higher cost and greater vulnerability. Shadow fleets are under constant threat. insurance, maintenance, and port access are contested. The global energy market feels the ripple effects. Nations that once benefited from cheap Russian energy now face logistical and reputational risks. China and India engage based on self-interest, not loyalty. Their support has limits. Energy flows may continue, but they do not underwrite Russian strategic failure. Psychologically, authoritarian systems rely on the appearance of inevitability. Once that cracks, control becomes more expensive. Putin's inability to protect allies, prevent strikes, or secure quick victories weakens the image he projects domestically and abroad. Meanwhile, Ukraine's survival reinforces its credibility and narrative strength. This war is not isolated. Ukraine, energy markets, Iran, Venezuela, sanctions, and global power projection are interconnected. Ignoring these links produces shallow conclusions. The key question is not who wins tomorrow, but who can sustain pressure longer without strategic collapse. Russia absorbs damage across military, economic, diplomatic, and psychological domains simultaneously. Ukraine endures immense strain but remains connected to allies. That difference matters. A quick resolution is unlikely. A clean ending is improbable. But Ukraine is not on the verge of defeat. What we are witnessing is a slow recalibration of global power, where time no longer favors Russia exclusively. Ukraine still matters, whether the headlines acknowledge it or not.